My sister ordered me to pay for her entire life. When I said not a chance, Mom blew up my phone. I left the country. Now they're losing their home. The text message came through at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. I know the exact time because I was finishing up a quarterly report that was due the next morning, surviving on my third cup of coffee and pure spite. Need $3,200 by Friday. Rent plus utilities, plus car payment. Don't make this difficult, Maya. That's it. No, please. No, can you help me out? Just a demand from my older sister Vanessa, delivered with the same casual entitlement she'd used to ask me to pass the salt. I stared at my phone screen, watching those words blur as exhaustion settled into my bones. $3,200. That was almost my entire monthly take-home pay after taxes, and she wanted it in 3 days like I was some kind of ATM machine programmed specifically for her convenience. The thing is, this wasn't new. This wasn't even surprising. This was just Tuesday. I set my phone face down on my desk and tried to return to the spreadsheet in front of me, but the numbers swam meaninglessly across the screen. My hands were shaking, not from the caffeine, but from something deeper, something that had been building for years, pressing against my rib cage like a slowly inflating balloon. Another text, then another. Maya, I know you saw my message. This is serious. Marcus and I are going to get evicted. You're really going to let your own sister become homeless? Marcus, her boyfriend of 4 years, who hadn't held a job for more than 6 months at a time since I'd known him. Marcus, who drove a Dodge Challenger he couldn't afford and wore designer sneakers that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Marcus, who had once told me at a family dinner that real work was beneath him and that he was building his brand as a social media influencer with 73 followers. I picked up my phone and typed out a response, then deleted it. Typed another, deleted that too. What could I even say that I hadn't said 100 times before? My phone rang. Vanessa. I let it go to voicemail. 30 seconds later, it rang again. This time it was my mother. I closed my eyes and answered. Maya Elizabeth Carter, what is going on? Mom's voice was already sharp with accusation, like somehow I was the one who'd done something wrong. Hi, Mom. It's almost 3 in the morning. Don't you start with me about the time. Vanessa is in tears right now. Actual tears, Maya. She says you're ignoring her messages about the rent money. I pressed my fingers against my temple where a headache was beginning to pulse. Mom, I can't give her $3,000. I don't have $3,000 to give. You have a good job, don't you? Didn't you just get promoted? I got a lateral move with a 5% raise, and that was 8 months ago. And even if I did have the money, Mom, this is the 4th time this year Vanessa has asked me for emergency rent money. She's going through a difficult time. She's been going through a difficult time for 10 years. The silence on the other end of the line was heavy, disapproving. I could picture my mother's face perfectly. That particular expression she reserved for when I was being selfish or difficult, or any of the other words she'd been using to describe me since I was 16 years old. Your sister needs help, and you're her family. Family helps each other. I've been helping. I've been helping for years, Mom. I paid her car insurance for 18 months. I covered her credit card bill 3 times. I bought all the groceries for your house for an entire year when I was in college and could barely afford my own rent. And we're grateful. Are you? The words came out harder than I intended, because it doesn't feel like gratitude. It feels like expectation. Like no matter what I give, it's never enough. And the moment I say I can't do something, I'm the bad guy. Maya, I don't know what's gotten into you lately, but this attitude is unacceptable. Your father would be so disappointed. There it was, the nuclear option, bringing up Dad. My father had died 6 years ago, suddenly, from a heart attack at 51. I was 22, fresh out of college, barely starting my first real job. Vanessa was 26, already living with Marcus in an apartment they couldn't afford. And here's the thing nobody talks about when someone dies. Grief doesn't make people better. It just makes everything more complicated. After Dad died, Mom latched onto Vanessa like a life raft. Every emotion, every moment of sadness or fear or anger got channeled into babying my older sister. Vanessa got grief counseling. Vanessa got weekend trips to the coast to process. Vanessa got constant check-ins and care packages, and Mom driving 40 minutes each way to bring her homemade meals. I got a phone call 2 days after the funeral. Maya, sweetheart, I need you to be strong right now. Vanessa is really struggling, and I have to focus on her. You understand, don't you? You've always been the responsible one. 22 years old, and I became the parent. I swallowed hard, pushing the memories back down where they belonged. Mom, I'm not doing this right now. I have work tomorrow and I need to sleep. Fine, be selfish, but don't come crying to me when your sister is living on the street. She hung up. I sat there in the blue light of my computer screen, feeling hollowed out and ancient. 28 years old, and I felt like I'd been carrying the weight of this family on my back for decades. My phone buzzed with more texts. Vanessa, then Marcus, then a number I didn't recognize that turned out to be Marcus's mother, somehow roped into the circus. I turned my phone off completely, finished my report, and went to bed as the sky outside my window started turning gray with dawn. The next morning, I walked into my office building with a grande Americano and a sense of grim determination. I was going to focus on work. I was going to be professional, competent, and I was absolutely not going to think about my family. That lasted until 10:30 a.m. when my manager, Stephen, called me into his office. Maya, got a minute? I grabbed my notebook and followed him, running through every project I was working on, trying to figure out what might have gone wrong. Stephen closed the door behind me and gestured to a chair. He was in his mid-40s, one of those naturally relaxed people who seemed to take everything in stride. I'd been working under him for 3 years, and I'd never seen him actually stressed. So, he said, leaning back in his chair, I wanted to talk to you about something that came up yesterday in the leadership meeting. My stomach dropped. Okay, you know that director of operations position that just opened up at our Singapore office? I nodded slowly. The Singapore office was legendary in our company, state-of-the-art facility, innovative projects, significantly higher pay scale to account for the international assignment. We've been looking at internal candidates, and your name came up. Multiple times, actually. The VP of International Operations specifically asked if you'd be interested. I blinked. Me? You've exceeded performance targets for 3 years running. Your project management skills are exceptional. The teams you lead consistently deliver ahead of schedule. And frankly, Maya, you're being underutilized here. He pulled out a folder and slid it across the desk. This is the preliminary offer packet. 3-year contract, renewable. Full relocation package. Housing stipend, international health insurance. The salary is, well, take a look. I opened the folder and my breath caught. The base salary was nearly double what I was making now. Double. And that wasn't counting the housing stipend, the annual travel allowance, the cost of living adjustment, or the performance bonuses. I know it's a big decision, Stephen continued. It's a huge move, literally halfway around the world. But I think you should seriously consider it. The experience alone would be invaluable for your career, and between you and me, you seem like you could use a fresh start. I looked up sharply. What do you mean? He held up his hands. I'm not trying to pry into your personal life, but I've noticed you've seemed strained lately. More stressed than usual. Sometimes a change of scenery can do wonders. He paused. The position needs to be filled within 2 months. If you're interested, let me know by next Friday and I'll fast-track your application. I walked out of his office in a daze, clutching the folder like it was a life preserver. A fresh start, halfway around the world. Far enough away that emergency late-night drives to bail out my sister wouldn't be physically possible. Far enough away that my mother couldn't show up at my apartment to lecture me about family obligations. Far enough away to finally breathe. I went back to my desk and opened the folder again, reading through every detail. The apartment photos showed a modern high-rise with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Marina Bay. The benefits package was extraordinary. The job responsibilities were challenging, but well within my capabilities. And it was 9,000 miles away from here. My phone, which I'd reluctantly turned back on, buzzed with another message from Vanessa. Mom told me you're being difficult about helping. Real mature, Maya. Then Marcus. Your sister is crying because of you. Hope you're proud of yourself. Then Mom. Call me immediately. We need to discuss your behavior. I looked at the messages, then at the job offer, then back at the messages. And I made a decision. I picked up my phone and called Stephen. Hey, it's Maya. About that Singapore position? I don't need until Friday. I'm interested. Very interested. The next 2 weeks were a blur of paperwork, interviews, and background checks. I didn't tell my family. Not when I had my final interview with the Singapore team over video conference. Not when I received the official offer letter. Not even when I signed the contract and accepted the position. I told myself I was waiting for the right moment, but the truth was simpler. I was afraid. Afraid of the guilt trip, the manipulation, the inevitable emotional warfare that would erupt the moment they found out I was leaving. Meanwhile, the demands kept coming. Vanessa needed $800 for her car registration. I sent $200 and told her that was all I could spare. Mom needed $500 to fix her washing machine. I sent $300. Marcus's mother called me directly, asking if I could loan Marcus $1,000 for a business opportunity that would definitely pay off. I didn't even respond to that one. Every request chipped away at my savings, at my ability to save up for the move, at my sanity. But I paid them because saying no felt impossible, because the guilt was crushing, because some sick, twisted part of me still believed that if I just helped enough, they'd finally appreciate me. They never did. 3 weeks before my departure date, I finally told them. I drove to Mom's house on a Saturday afternoon, my stomach churning with anxiety. Vanessa was there too. Mom had mentioned she was visiting, which actually worked out. I could tell them both at once, like ripping off a bandage. They were in the living room when I arrived, watching some reality TV show about housewives throwing drinks at each other. Vanessa was sprawled on the couch in leggings and an oversized hoodie, scrolling through her phone. Mom was in her recliner, crocheting. Hey, I said from the doorway. Oh, Maya, honey, can you grab me a glass of water while you're up? Mom asked without looking away from the TV. Not even a hello, just immediately making me useful. I got her the water, handed it to her, and sat down in the armchair across from them. I need to tell you both something. That got Vanessa's attention. She looked up from her phone, one eyebrow raised. I got a job offer. A really good one. Director-level position. Oh, honey, that's wonderful. Mom actually smiled. Is it at your current company? Will you be making more money? Yes and yes. It's with my company, but it's a transfer. To the Singapore office. The silence that followed was deafening. Vanessa sat up slowly. Singapore. Like the country. Yes. You're moving to Asia? Mom's voice was very quiet, very controlled. The voice that meant she was furious, but trying to hold it together. I am. The position starts in 3 weeks. I've already signed the contract. 3 weeks. Vanessa stood up. You've known about this and didn't tell us. I'm telling you now. 3 weeks before you leave. She looked at Mom, then back at me. This is insane. You can't just move to the other side of the world. I can actually. I'm 28 years old. What about your family? Mom set down her crocheting, her hands trembling slightly. What about us? What about you? You'll be fine. Fine. Vanessa's voice was rising. I'm in the middle of a financial crisis. Mom's barely making ends meet, and you're just going to abandon us? Vanessa, you've been in a financial crisis for 4 years, and Mom has her pension and Social Security. She's not destitute. How can you be so selfish? Mom's eyes were filling with tears. Real tears, which was somehow worse than the anger. Your father would be ashamed of you right now. There it was again. Dad. The ultimate weapon. Dad's dead, Mom. The words came out flat, emotionless. He's been dead for 6 years. And you know what? I don't think he'd be ashamed. I think he'd be proud that I'm building a career and taking opportunities. Don't you dare speak about your father that way. Mom stood up, shaking. He raised you better than this. He raised you to care about family, to be there for the people who need you. I have been there. My voice cracked. I have been there for 6 years. I've paid your bills. I've bailed out Vanessa. I've sacrificed my own financial stability to keep both of you afloat. And not once, not one single time, has either of you said thank you. Not once have you asked how I'm doing, or if I need help, or if I'm okay. That's not true, Vanessa started. When's my birthday, Vanessa? She stared at me. What? My birthday. What's the date? It's in the summer. July 18th. And you've forgotten it for the last 3 years. I looked at Mom. You too. But you know what? I've never forgotten yours. Never forgotten Vanessa's. Never forgotten to send cards, gifts, money. Because that's what I do. I remember. I show up. I help. We never asked you to, Mom began. You did, though. You ask constantly. You just don't use the word ask. You use words like need and emergency and family obligation. You guilt me into it, and then you act like I'm the bad guy when I finally say I can't do it anymore. Vanessa's face was red. So what? You're just going to run away. Go play expat in Singapore while we lose everything. You're not going to lose everything. You're going to have to figure it out. Like adults. Like I've been doing since I was 22 years old. Your father died. Mom was crying now, genuine sobs. I was grieving. I needed help with Vanessa. And what about me? My voice broke. What about the fact that I was grieving too? That I lost my dad too? That I was barely an adult and suddenly I had to be everyone's support system? Who helped me, Mom? Who checked on me? Who asked if I was okay? Silence. That's what I thought. I stood up, grabbed my purse. I'm moving to Singapore on October 15th. I'll send you my new contact information once I'm settled. But I need you both to understand something. I'm not your ATM anymore. I'm not your backup plan. I'm not your solution to every problem. You're going to have to figure out your own lives. Get out, Mom whispered. Get out of my house. Gladly. I walked out, got in my car, and drove away while Vanessa screamed something from the front porch that I couldn't quite hear over the blood rushing in my ears. My hands were shaking so hard I had to pull over 3 blocks away. I sat in a random residential street, gripping the steering wheel and waited for the panic attack to pass. What had I done? What had I done? My phone started ringing. Mom. Then Vanessa. Then Mom again. Then a number I didn't recognize, probably Marcus. I turned my phone on Do Not Disturb and drove home. The next 2 weeks were psychological warfare. My phone was flooded with messages, voicemails, emails, even a physical letter that showed up at my apartment from Mom. 3 pages of handwritten guilt about family values and responsibility and how Dad would be heartbroken to see me abandoning everyone. Vanessa sent me a photo of an eviction notice. Hope you're happy, the caption read. Marcus sent a video of Vanessa crying, begging me to reconsider, saying she couldn't believe her own sister would do this to her. Mom's voicemails ranged from weeping to furious. You're making a mistake. You'll regret this for the rest of your life. Don't expect us to be here when you come crawling back. My aunt called, Dad's sister, who I hadn't spoken to in years, to tell me I was breaking Mom's heart and destroying the family. Cousins I barely knew sent Facebook messages calling me selfish, heartless, cruel. It was an orchestrated campaign, and it was effective. The guilt was crushing. Every notification made my stomach clench. Every message made me question if I was doing the right thing. But something else was happening too. My friends were rallying around me. My coworker Rachel, who I'd confided in about the situation, sent me articles about enmeshment and codependency. "This is classic toxic family dynamics," she texted. "They've trained you to feel responsible for their choices. You're doing the right thing." My college roommate, who'd witnessed some of the family drama firsthand, called me. "Maya, I've been waiting for you to do this for years. You've been setting yourself on fire to keep them warm. Get out. Go to Singapore. Live your life." Even Stephen, my manager, pulled me aside one day. "I don't know what's going on in your personal life, but you've seemed lighter these past few weeks. More like yourself. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." I held on to those words like a lifeline. 5 days before my departure, I got a text from a number I didn't immediately recognize. "Hey, it's Jordan. Vanessa's ex? I heard you're moving to Singapore. Good for you. I know we haven't talked in years, but I wanted to reach out." Vanessa did the same thing to me. Constant financial demands, guilt trips, manipulative crying. It took me 2 years and thousands of dollars to finally break free. Don't let them pull you back in. You deserve better. Jordan, Vanessa's boyfriend before Marcus. They'd dated for 3 years, and when they broke up, Vanessa had painted him as the villain, said he was controlling, unsupportive, cruel. Now I wondered how much of that was true. How many other stories had I accepted without question? How many times had I believed Vanessa's version of events because she was my sister, because family believed family, because that's what we were supposed to do? I thanked Jordan for reaching out, and then I did something I probably should have done years ago. I went through my bank statements, every transaction, every Venmo payment, every emergency loan. I made a spreadsheet, and when I was done, I stared at the total in numb disbelief. $47,832. That's how much money I had given to Vanessa and Mom over the past 6 years. $47,832. That was a down payment on a house. That was a new car paid in cash. That was a dream vacation, a master's degree, a safety net. Instead, it had vanished into the black hole of their dysfunction, and I had nothing to show for it except anxiety and resentment. I took a screenshot of the spreadsheet and saved it. I didn't know why. Some part of me just needed proof. Needed to be able to look at that number and remember that I hadn't imagined this, that it was real, that I wasn't crazy for leaving. October 15th arrived. I'd sold most of my furniture, packed the rest into storage, and condensed my life into 3 suitcases and a carry-on. Everything I needed to start over fit in the trunk of my car. My flight left at 9 p.m. I planned to arrive at the airport by 6, get through security, and sit at the gate in peaceful silence before boarding. But at 5:30 p.m., as I was loading my car, my phone rang. Marcus. I shouldn't have answered. I knew I shouldn't, but some masochistic part of me wanted to hear what he had to say. What Marcus? Your sister is in the hospital. His voice was shaking. She tried to hurt herself, Maya. Because of you. Because you abandoned her. The world tilted sideways. What? She took pills. I found her in time, but... His voice broke. How could you do this to her? How could you leave when she needed you most? My heart was pounding so hard I felt sick. What hospital? Why? So you can fly off to your fancy new life with a clear conscience? She doesn't want to see you. Nobody does. Marcus, what hospital is she at? Mercy General. But don't bother coming. You've done enough damage. He hung up. I stood there in my building's parking garage, phone in hand, keys dangling from the other, and felt the world collapsing around me. Vanessa was in the hospital. She'd tried to hurt herself. Because of me. Because I was leaving. Because I'd said no. Every doubt, every moment of guilt, every accusation from the past 2 weeks came crashing down on me. This was my fault. I'd done this. I'd pushed too hard, been too selfish, and now my phone rang again. Rachel. Maya? Are you okay? Marcus just posted something insane on Facebook. He said Vanessa's in the hospital. That she tried to. I couldn't say it. Maya, listen to me very carefully. Is there any chance at all that this is manipulation? He said she took pills. That she's at Mercy General. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm 3 minutes from Mercy General. I'll go check. You stay there. Don't do anything. Don't change your plans. Let me verify this. Rachel, 3 minutes. I promise. She hung up. I paced in the parking garage, checking my phone every 10 seconds. My flight was in 3.5 hours. I needed to leave for the airport in the next 15 minutes to make it on time. My phone rang. Rachel. Maya, I'm at Mercy General. I talked to the ER nurse. There's no Vanessa Carter checked in. No recent admissions matching her description. I even checked Jane Does. She's not here. The relief was so intense I thought I might throw up. He lied. This is what they do, Maya. When they realize they're losing control, they escalate. They create a crisis to pull you back in. I sat down on the curb, my legs shaking. Oh my God! Are you still getting on that plane? I looked at my suitcases in the trunk, at my watch, at the parking garage around me that suddenly felt like a cage I'd been living in for years. Yeah, I said. Yeah, I'm getting on that plane. Good. Text me when you land. And Maya, block their numbers. All of them. You don't need this poison following you to Singapore. I did exactly that. Sitting there on the curb, I blocked Vanessa's number, Marcus's number, Mom's number, every relative who'd sent me guilt-tripping messages over the past 2 weeks. Then I stood up, closed my trunk, and drove to the airport. The flight to Singapore was 17 hours with a layover in Tokyo. I slept through most of it, a deep, dreamless sleep that felt like my body was finally allowing itself to rest after years of hypervigilance. When I landed at Changi Airport, stepping into the humidity and chaos of international arrivals, I felt something I hadn't felt in so long I'd almost forgotten what it was. Hope. The company had arranged corporate housing for my first month, a 1-bedroom apartment in a high-rise near Marina Bay, exactly like the photos. Floor-to-ceiling windows, modern furniture, a view of the Singapore skyline that took my breath away. I dropped my suitcases, stood at those windows and cried. Not sad tears. Relief tears. Freedom tears. I was 9,000 miles away from the guilt, the demands, the constant emotional manipulation. Nobody here knew me as Vanessa's little sister, or the responsible one, or the ATM. I was just Maya Carter, Director of Operations, starting a new chapter. The first few days were disorienting. The time difference, the heat, the constant sensory overload of a new city. But slowly I adjusted. I discovered hawker centers where you could get incredible food for a few dollars. I learned to navigate the MRT system. I found a gym, a coffee shop I liked, a grocery store that carried the weird American brands I missed. Work was intense, but fulfilling. My team was smart, motivated, and actually appreciated my contributions. My manager, Patricia, was direct but supportive. Within the first month, I was leading a major infrastructure project that would have taken years to get approved back home. I made friends, real friends, not just coworkers I was polite to. Emma from Australia, who invited me to her weekly running group. Dev from India, who shared my obsession with sci-fi novels. Carolina from Brazil, who dragged me to salsa classes every Thursday. For the first time in years, I had a life that was mine. No family drama bleeding into every decision. No guilt overshadowing every moment of happiness. No constant state of waiting for the next crisis. I didn't unblock my family's numbers. But after 6 weeks, I did create a new email address and sent a single message to the old family group chat. I've arrived safely in Singapore. I'm doing well. I hope you're all taking care of yourselves. I need space and time. I'll reach out when I'm ready." The responses came immediately. "Mom, how can you be so cold?" "Vanessa, glad to know you're doing well while we're drowning." "Marcus, you're dead to us." I closed the email app and didn't open it again for 3 months. Life in Singapore fell into a rhythm. Work, gym, social events, weekend trips to Malaysia and Indonesia. I got promoted 6 months in, senior director, with another substantial raise. I moved into a bigger apartment, one I actually chose myself, with a balcony where I grew herbs and watched the sunset. I went on dates. Nothing serious, but it was nice to remember that I was a person who could have fun, who could be wanted for something other than my bank account. I started therapy. Patricia had mentioned that the company offered excellent mental health benefits, and I figured after everything, I probably needed it. My therapist, Dr. Ling, was a soft-spoken woman in her 50s who had a way of asking questions that made you realize things you'd been avoiding for years. "Tell me about your family," she said in our 3rd session. So I did. I told her everything. About Dad dying, about becoming the family ATM, about the guilt and the demands and the constant feeling that I was never doing enough. "And how did it feel?" she asked when I finished, "to say no?" "Terrifying, liberating, awful. Like I was finally breathing after holding my breath for years." That's common in enmeshed family systems. You were parentified, forced into a caretaker role far too young. Your family learned that if they applied enough pressure, you would bend. What you did was set a boundary, a very strong boundary. They said, "I abandoned them." Did you? Or did you simply stop enabling their dysfunction? I thought about that for a long time. "They're adults," Dr. Ling continued. "Your mother is in her 50s. Your sister is 30. They have the same capability to solve problems that you do. But as long as you were there to bail them out, they didn't have to. You removing yourself doesn't make you cruel. It gives them the opportunity to grow. What if they don't? What if they just fail? Then they fail, and they'll face the consequences of their own choices, which is how adults learn. You can't save people from themselves, Maya. You can only save yourself." That conversation stuck with me. 3 months became 6. 6 became 9. I video called with Rachel and my other friends from home. I traveled to Thailand for a week. I took a pottery class and discovered I was terrible at it, but loved it anyway. And slowly, the guilt began to fade. Not disappear. I don't think it ever fully disappears when you've been conditioned to feel responsible for everyone else's happiness. But it quieted, became background noise instead of a constant scream. At the 9-month mark, I unblocked Mom's number and sent a text. "Hi, Mom. I'm ready to talk if you are, but I need you to understand that I'm not coming back, and I'm not sending money. If you can accept that, I'd like to have a relationship with you." Her response came 2 hours later. "I don't understand why you're doing this to us." I sighed and put my phone away. In month 11, everything changed. I was at work, reviewing project timelines with my team when my personal phone rang. A number I didn't recognize, but with a U.S. area code. I excused myself and stepped into the hallway. "Hello. Maya Carter?" A woman's voice, professional. "Yes." "This is Jennifer Walsh from First National Bank. I'm calling regarding a situation with your mother, Patricia Carter. You're listed as her emergency contact. Are you available to discuss her account?" My stomach dropped. What kind of situation? "Your mother is significantly overdrawn and has several accounts in collections. We've been trying to reach her for 3 months. Is there any way you could contact her and have her call us?" How overdrawn are we talking? A pause. I'm not supposed to discuss account specifics with non-account holders, but given the circumstances, I can tell you it's substantial. Over $15,000. I closed my eyes. "And you want me to pay it?" No, I'm not asking you to pay anything. We just need to get in contact with your mother to work out a payment plan. But there's something else. Another pause. There have been several large transfers from her account over the past year to a Vanessa Carter and a Marcus Holloway, and the pattern suggests, well, it might be worth looking into whether there's been any financial exploitation. Financial exploitation? It's when someone, often a family member, takes advantage of an elderly person's finances. Your mother is 56, so she's not technically elderly, but the patterns are concerning, especially since the transfers coincided with her accounts going into the red. I leaned against the wall. How much did she transfer to them? I really shouldn't say, but over $30,000 in the past year. $30,000, on top of whatever I'd been sending before I left. Ms. Walsh, I appreciate the call, but I'm not in a position to help. I live in Singapore, and I'm not involved in my mother's finances. If you need to contact her, I'd suggest calling her directly or sending certified mail. We've tried. She's not responding. Then I'm sorry, but that's something she'll need to handle herself. I hung up and stood in that hallway for a solid 5 minutes, processing. Mom was broke. Vanessa and Marcus had drained her accounts, and now they were all facing the consequences I'd been protecting them from for years. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt tired. That evening, I sent another email to the family group. I received a call from First National Bank. Mom, you need to contact them immediately. Your accounts are overdrawn and in collections. I am not offering financial help, but I wanted you to know this is serious and needs to be addressed. The response was immediate and explosive. Mom, so you'll ignore me for a year, but suddenly care about my bank account? This is your fault. If you hadn't abandoned us, none of this would have happened. Vanessa, we needed that money to survive. Mom was helping us because you wouldn't. Don't try to make this about her being irresponsible. Marcus, your mother is going to lose her house because of you. Hope you can sleep at night. I read through the messages, noted the complete absence of accountability or self-awareness, and closed my email. But something was nagging at me. Mom was going to lose her house. The house I grew up in. The house where Dad's ashes were scattered in the backyard under the oak tree. The house filled with every childhood memory I had. Despite everything, I felt a pang of sadness. But then I remembered something Jennifer Walsh had said. Financial exploitation. I called her back the next morning. Ms. Walsh, this is Maya Carter. I know I said I couldn't help, but I need to know something. Those transfers to my sister, did my mother authorize them? That's difficult to determine. They were done through online banking, so technically yes, but given your mother's recent behavior, not responding to calls, letting accounts overdraw, there's a possibility she was coerced or manipulated. Is there a way to get records? To see when the transfers started, how frequent they were? If your mother filed a complaint for financial elder abuse, we could investigate. But she'd have to be the one to file. And if she won't, then there's not much we can do. The money was transferred from her account with her login credentials. Legally, she gave it away. I thanked her and hung up. Then I called someone I never thought I'd call, Jordan, Vanessa's ex Maya. Hey, is everything okay? Jordan, you said Vanessa did the same thing to you. The financial manipulation. Can I ask you about it? There was a long pause. Yeah, of course. What do you want to know? How did it start? Small stuff at first. She'd forget her wallet when we went out and I'd pay. Then she needed help with her phone bill. Just once, she said. Then her car insurance was due, and she was a little short. Then her credit cards were maxed, and she needed help paying them down. He sighed. Before I knew it, I was paying for everything. Her rent, her car, her food, her credit cards. I was drowning in debt, working overtime just to keep us afloat. And when you tried to stop, she'd cry. She'd tell me I didn't love her. She'd threaten to hurt herself. Once, she actually called 911 and told them I was being abusive, which was completely false, but I still had to deal with cops showing up at my door. His voice was bitter. The crazy thing is, your mom backed her up every time. Told me I was being selfish, that if I really loved Vanessa, I'd take care of her. My blood ran cold. Mom did that. Every single time. It was like they were a team. Vanessa would make the demands, and if I pushed back, your mom would swoop in and guilt-trip me into compliance. He paused. That's why I finally left. Because I realized it wasn't just Vanessa. It was both of them. They enabled each other. After I hung up, I sat on my balcony and watched the sun set over Singapore, thinking about patterns. Vanessa manipulating Jordan, then moving on to Marcus, who probably had his own money at first, before she drained him dry. And all the while, Mom was there, facilitating, enabling, backing Vanessa up. And then I'd been the safety net, the backup plan. When Marcus couldn't provide anymore, when Jordan escaped, when Vanessa's financial disasters exceeded what one person could bail out, they'd turn to me. And when I left, they'd turn to Mom's accounts. It wasn't just Vanessa. It was all of them, caught in a cycle of dysfunction where nobody took responsibility and everyone expected someone else to fix their problems. I pulled out my laptop and wrote an email. Mom, I spoke with Jordan, Vanessa's ex-boyfriend. He told me about how Vanessa and you worked together to manipulate him financially. He told me about the guilt trips, the accusations, the manufactured crises. I've spent the past year in therapy understanding that this pattern isn't normal. It's abuse. Financial and emotional abuse. I was parentified at 22 years old and turned into an ATM for 6 years. I gave you and Vanessa over $47,000. I have spreadsheets proving it. And now I'm learning that you've given Vanessa and Marcus over $30,000 in the past year, driving yourself into debt. This needs to stop. Not for my sake, I'm done, but for yours. Vanessa is bleeding you dry, and you're letting her. If you want help, real help, I can give you the number for a therapist who specializes in family dynamics and financial abuse. But I will not send money. I will not come home to fix this. You need to save yourself. I hit send and immediately felt nauseated, but I didn't take it back. The response came 3 days later, not from Mom, but from Vanessa. How dare you contact Mom's bank behind her back? How dare you manipulate information from Jordan, who is a terrible boyfriend and a liar? You have some nerve calling US abusive when you're the one who abandoned your family in their time of need. Mom is losing the house because of you. Her health is deteriorating because of the stress you caused. If anything happens to her, it's on your hands. We wanted to keep this private, but since you're spreading lies about us, I'm going to tell the truth. You were a resentful, jealous sister who couldn't handle that Mom loved me more. You hated that I was the pretty one, the popular one, the one everyone liked. So you threw money at us to buy affection. And when that didn't work, you ran away like a coward. Well, guess what? We don't need you. We've never needed you. Mom is MY mother, and I'll take care of her without your help. Lose our number. I read it twice, looking for any hint of self-awareness or accountability. There was none. Just projection, deflection, and attacks. I forwarded the email to Dr. Ling with a simple note. Is this what you meant by narcissistic family dynamics? Her response, textbook. Notice how she's making herself the victim while simultaneously attacking you. This is called DARVO, deny attack, reverse victim and offender. You made the right choice leaving. I closed my laptop and went to bed. Year 2 in Singapore was transformative. I got another promotion. Senior Vice President of Operations, overseeing 3 countries. The salary was absurd. The work was challenging and meaningful. I was good at my job, really good, and for the first time in my life, people recognized and valued that. I dated someone seriously. His name was Alex. He was a Singaporean architect, and he was kind and funny and completely stable. We dated for 8 months before it fizzled out amicably, but it was healthy, normal. Nobody manipulated anyone or demanded money or weaponized guilt. I traveled. Vietnam, Cambodia, Japan, South Korea. I climbed mountains and scuba dived and ate street food in night markets. I took a 2-week vacation to New Zealand just because I could. I built a life I was proud of. And slowly, the guilt faded even more. I didn't hear from my family for 18 months. Radio silence, which was honestly a relief. Until the email from Aunt Linda. Aunt Linda was my mom's younger sister, the one relative who'd always been relatively normal. She'd called me once early in my Singapore stint, saying she understood why I left, even if she didn't agree with the method. Maya, I need to tell you something, and you're not going to like it. Your mother's house went into foreclosure last month. She's been living with Vanessa and Marcus in their apartment, but that's getting foreclosed on too. They're going to be homeless in 60 days. I read the email 3 times, feeling absolutely nothing. Aunt Linda, thank you for telling me, but I don't know what you expect me to do about it. Her response came quickly. I don't expect anything. I just thought you should know. But Maya, your mother, is 58 years old. She's too proud to apply for assistance programs. She's depressed, barely functioning. And Vanessa and Marcus are still taking what little she has left. I've tried to help, but they shut me out. I'm not asking you to come home or send money. I just wanted you to know that this is the reality. Whatever you decide to do with that information is up to you. I stared at my laptop screen for a long time. Mom was going to be homeless. Part of me, the part that had been trained since age 22 to fix everything, wanted to immediately wire money, buy plane tickets, solve the crisis. But I didn't. Instead, I called Dr. Ling for an emergency session. They're losing everything, I told her. My mom's house, Vanessa's apartment, all of it. And I feel nothing. I feel like I should feel something. Guilt, sadness, anything. But I don't. Is that normal? Am I a sociopath? Dr. Ling smiled gently. You're not a sociopath, Maya. You're protecting yourself. You've experienced what we call compassion fatigue. For years, you were hypervigilant about their crises, constantly in fight or flight mode, always ready to rescue them. You've spent 2 years recovering from that trauma. Your nervous system has learned that their crises aren't your emergencies anymore. But she's my mother. She is. And she made choices that led to this situation. She enabled your sister's financial abuse. She prioritized Vanessa's dysfunction over your well-being. She borrowed against her home to give money to people who squandered it. Those were her choices. So I just let her become homeless? What would helping look like, Maya? Realistically? I thought about it. I'd wire money for rent and deposits. They'd stay in an apartment for a few months. And then there'd be another crisis. The money would run out, they'd make more bad choices. And I'd be right back where I started. Except now I'd have rebuilt the bridge they could use to manipulate me. Exactly. The only way this pattern changes is if they hit rock bottom and are forced to change themselves. You can't save people from their own consequences. You can only choose whether to go down with them. That night, I sent a reply to Aunt Linda. Thank you for telling me. This is sad, and I hope Mom gets the help she needs. But I'm not intervening. If Mom needs assistance, there are social services, women's shelters, and programs for exactly this situation. I'll send you a list of resources in her area. But I won't be sending money, coming home, or providing housing. I need you to understand that this isn't cruelty. This is self-preservation. I spent 6 years sacrificing everything to keep them afloat, and it changed nothing except my own mental health. I can't do it again. I attached a document I'd prepared, a comprehensive list of assistance programs, food banks, subsidized housing applications, job resources, and mental health services available in Mom's area. Then I sent another email, this time to Mom directly. Mom, I heard about the foreclosure. I'm sorry you're going through this. I've sent Aunt Linda a list of resources that can help you. There are programs for housing assistance, food security, and employment services. I want you to know that I love you, but I cannot and will not provide financial support. The pattern has to stop somewhere, and it stops with me. If you want a relationship with me that doesn't involve money, I'm open to that. But it has to be real. It has to be based on mutual respect and healthy boundaries. The choice is yours. I didn't expect a response. I got one anyway. 3 weeks later. Maya, you're right. About everything. I didn't want to admit it, but you're right. After you left, Vanessa and Marcus convinced me to refinance the house to help them invest in Marcus's business idea. I was stupid enough to believe them. The business never materialized. The money disappeared, and I couldn't make the payments. I've been in denial for so long, telling myself that if I just helped a little more, if I just gave a little more, everything would work out. It didn't. Vanessa isn't speaking to me now. She's furious that I can't give her any more money. She actually accused me of ruining her life by not planning better financially. I'm staying at a women's shelter right now. It's humbling, humiliating, but also clarifying. I see now what you were trying to tell me. I'm using some of the resources you sent. I applied for subsidized housing and food assistance. I got a part-time job at a grocery store. It's not much, but it's mine. I'm going to therapy. The shelter offers it for free. I'm starting to understand how I failed you after your father died. How I put all my grief onto you and expected you to carry it. How I enabled your sister because it was easier than holding her accountable. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect you to come home or send money or fix this. But I wanted you to know that I'm trying. I'm finally trying to save myself. If you're ever willing to talk, really talk, not about money or problems, just talk, I'd like that. But I understand if you're not ready. Love, Mom. I cried reading that email. Not sad tears. Not angry tears. Relief tears. My mother was taking responsibility. Actually, genuinely taking responsibility. I waited 2 days before responding. Mom, I'm proud of you. I know that's a weird thing to say, but I am. What you're doing is hard, and you're doing it anyway. I'm not ready for phone calls yet, but I'm open to emails. Slow, honest emails where we actually get to know each other as adults. I'd like that. Take care of yourself. Maya, 6 months later. Mom sent me photos from her new apartment. It was tiny, a studio in a subsidized housing complex, but it was clean and organized and hers. She'd gotten a full-time job as an office administrator. She was still going to therapy. She'd joined a book club and started volunteering at a community garden. She looked older in the photos, more tired, but also lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted. Our emails became regular, once a week, sometimes more. We talked about books and TV shows and her garden tomatoes. She asked about Singapore, my work, my friends. Real questions. Not, how much money are you making? Or, can you help with? Just genuine curiosity about my life. She told me about her therapy sessions, about unpacking the codependency she developed with Vanessa, about her own enabling behaviors. My therapist asked me why I always believed Vanessa's version of events without question, she wrote. Why I never considered that she might be lying or manipulating. And I realized it was because accepting that meant accepting that I'd failed as a parent. That I'd raised someone who would exploit her own family. It was easier to blame everyone else, Jordan for being unsupportive, you for being selfish, Marcus's job market for being difficult. Easier than admitting I'd enabled a monster. She's not a monster, I wrote back. She's a person who never learned accountability because she never had to face consequences. That's not entirely your fault, Mom. Dad's death broke all of us in different ways. Maybe. But I'm the parent. I should have done better. I should have protected you instead of burdening you. We were healing. Slowly, carefully, but healing. Vanessa sent me one more email, a year after Mom's first foreclosure. I hope you're happy. You destroyed this family. Mom is living in poverty because of you. I'm struggling every single day because of you. Marcus left me because the stress of your abandonment was too much for our relationship. Everything good in my life is gone, and it's all your fault. I'm never speaking to you again. I read it once and deleted it. Dr. Ling had taught me that some people will never accept responsibility. They'll twist reality into whatever narrative allows them to remain the victim. Vanessa would probably go her whole life believing that I ruined everything, that she was the wronged party. And that was okay. I couldn't control her narrative. I could only control my own. Year 3 in Singapore, I got headhunted by a European firm. Chief Operations Officer, based in Amsterdam. Another massive salary increase. Another incredible opportunity. I talked to Patricia about it. She was disappointed, but unsurprised. "You've outgrown this role," she admitted. "Hell, you've outgrown this office. Take the job, Maya. You've earned it." I called Mom to tell her. "Amsterdam. Oh, honey, that's wonderful. Are you excited?" "Terrified and excited. It's a huge role. Huge responsibility. You can handle it. You've always been able to handle anything." A pause. "Maya, I'm proud of you. I don't think I've ever said that, but I am. You built an incredible life for yourself. You should be proud too." Hearing those words I'd been craving since I was 22 years old, broke something open in me. "Thanks, Mom. That means a lot. Will you come visit before you move? Just for a few days? I'd really like to see you." I thought about it for a long time. Yeah, I'd like that too. I flew home for a week that summer. Home. It was strange using that word for a place I'd left 3 years ago, but there it was. Mom picked me up from the airport in a used Honda she'd bought with her tax refund. She looked older, grayer, with more lines around her eyes, but she also looked healthier, stable. We hugged in the arrivals terminal, and it felt different than any hug we'd shared before. Equal, adult. Her apartment was small but cozy. She'd decorated with thrift store finds and plants. We spent the week cooking together, watching old movies, talking. Real talking, the kind we'd never done when I was younger. She told me about her life, her job, her book club friends, her therapy progress. I told her about Singapore, Amsterdam, the life I'd built 9,000 miles away. On my last night, we sat on her tiny balcony with tea, watching the sunset. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't left?" she asked. "Sometimes. I think I'd probably still be working the same job, living in the same apartment, slowly drowning in everyone else's problems." She nodded. "I'm sorry I did that to you. Really sorry." "I know. Do you forgive me?" I thought about that. "I'm working on it. Forgiveness isn't a switch I can flip, but I'm not angry anymore. That's something. That's more than I deserve." We sat in comfortable silence as the sun dipped below the horizon. "Have you heard from Vanessa?" I finally asked. Mom sighed. "Not in 8 months. Last I heard, she moved to Arizona with some new boyfriend. She called once asking for money for the security deposit on an apartment. I said no. She hasn't called since." "How did that feel?" "Awful. Liberating. Both." She looked at me. "You were right, you know. Enabling her wasn't helping her. It was just allowing her to keep destroying herself and everyone around her. Maybe now, without us propping her up, she'll finally figure it out. Maybe. Or maybe she won't. And as much as that breaks my heart, I can't save her. She has to save herself." The words I'd been trying to say for years, finally coming from my mother's mouth. "Yeah," I said. "She does. I've been in Amsterdam for 2 years now. My job is incredible, challenging, rewarding, everything I worked for. I have an apartment overlooking canal. I bike to work past tulip markets and museums. I've learned Dutch badly and made friends and dated and traveled and lived. Mom and I video chat every Sunday. Our relationship isn't perfect. There are still moments of tension, old patterns trying to reassert themselves, but it's real. It's honest. It's based on mutual respect instead of obligation and guilt. She's doing well. She got promoted at work. She's dating someone, a widower she met at her book club, who sounds nice and stable and age-appropriate. She's talking about taking a trip to visit me next spring. I haven't heard from Vanessa in 3 years. Sometimes I wonder about her. Wonder if she ever figured it out, if she ever looked in the mirror and saw what I saw. Wonder if she's happy, or if she's still blaming everyone else for the consequences of her own choices. Mostly, though, I don't think about her at all. Because here's what I learned. You can't save people who don't want to be saved. You can't force someone to take responsibility for their life. You can't love someone into being better. All you can do is save yourself. And sometimes saving yourself looks like selfishness to people who are benefiting from your self-destruction. Sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do is step back and let people face the consequences they've been avoiding. Sometimes leaving is the bravest thing you can do. I left the country 3 years ago with 3 suitcases, $47,000 in family debt behind me, and a metric ton of guilt weighing on my shoulders. Now I'm standing in Amsterdam in the career of my dreams, with a healthy relationship with my mother, with friends and freedom and a life that's entirely mine. They said I abandoned them. They said I was selfish. They said I destroyed the family. Maybe I did. Or maybe I just stopped letting them destroy me. My sister ordered me to pay for her entire life. When I said not a chance, my mom blew up my phone. I left the country. And you know what? They survived. They had to figure it out on their own, face their consequences, and deal with the reality they'd created. Mom figured it out. She's rebuilding her life with dignity and accountability. Vanessa, I don't know. Maybe she figured it out too. Maybe she didn't. But that's not my problem anymore. My problem is deciding whether to accept the speaking invitation I just received, a women's leadership conference in Singapore, talking about boundary setting and career development. My problem is figuring out what to cook for the dinner party I'm hosting next weekend. My problem is choosing between the 2 amazing vacation destinations my friends are debating for our summer trip. Good problems, normal problems, my problems, not crises, not emergencies, not manipulations disguised as family obligation, just life, my life, and it's pretty damn good. Last week, I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. Maya, this is Vanessa. I'm sure you're surprised to hear from me. I'm not asking for money or help. I'm actually writing to apologize. I'm in therapy now, real therapy, not the kind I pretended to do while you were still around. I'm working on a program for codependency and financial issues. My therapist had me write out a timeline of my relationships and finances, and seeing it all laid out like that, I couldn't ignore it anymore. I destroyed Jordan. I destroyed Marcus. I destroyed Mom's financial stability. And I tried to destroy you, but you got out before I could finish the job. You were right to leave. You were right about everything. I'm not asking for forgiveness or a relationship. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. I see what I did. And I'm sorry. I hope Amsterdam is everything you wanted it to be. Vanessa, I read the email 3 times. Then I wrote back. Vanessa, thank you for the apology. I hope therapy is helping you. I hope you're building a life you can be proud of. I'm not ready for a relationship yet. Maybe someday, but not now. But I appreciate you taking accountability. That takes courage. Take care of yourself. Maya, and I meant it. I don't know if Vanessa will actually change. Recovery isn't linear, and accountability is just the first step. But for the first time in 10 years, I have hope that maybe, possibly, my sister might figure it out. And if she does, great. And if she doesn't, that's okay too. Because either way, I'm going to be fine. I saved myself. And that's enough.